Hey, this is Aaron Fink from Grapple City Rewind. If you like what you hear on this episode, give a follow, leave a review, cut a promo on us, anything goes. It'll go a long way in helping us to be discovered by more wrestling fans like you. All right, let's cue the music.
Hello and welcome to Grapple City Rewind, taking you all the way back to the iconic pay-per-views that have shaped wrestling history. I'm Bradley Palermo, along with Aaron Fink. Today, we will be getting into WWE's In Your House 16 Canadian Stampede from back in 1997. Call us and leave us a message on our machines anytime, day or night, at 626-657-SLAM, or email us at grapplecitypod@gmail.com, across social media at grapplecitypod. Aaron, I really want to talk about the pay-per-view that we just watched for this first inaugural episode. But before we get into the old shit, let's talk about the current shit. Have you watched any good wrestling this week? Any current wrestling this week? Maybe some NXT, maybe some Ricky Starks? What you got?
Yeah, I watch pretty much everything on a weekly basis. I think the highlight for me was Ricky Starks showing up on NXT on Tuesday night. Didn't have any idea he was going to be there. I think it was a great surprise, and I'm hoping that he finally gets to work and get some screen time. I'm assuming that's why he's there. I'm assuming that's why he joined. So very excited to see what happens next for Ricky.
Does it surprise you at all, like when a top guy from the other company, from AEW, comes over to WWE and you see him first on NXT, or is that just like something we've kind of come to expect? I mean, Ricky Starks, I think, was in the running for the world title over there at AEW versus MJF at one point, right? So
yeah, it was a short-lived feud. He was main event adjacent. First, let me say I love Ricky Starks. Anything I'm about to say is not disparaging against him. I think the way he was positioned in AEW, he was on the rise, as has happened with a lot of AEW wrestlers. They're on the rise. There's some momentum going. And then things kind of peter out and they never really catch that momentum again. That was what happened with Ricky. He had a great, I think it was 2022 or 2023. He was in a lot of good feuds. He was winning titles in AEW. So, yeah, he was certainly in the main event scene. He's not at the top of the main event scene in AEW. Now that he's in NXT, I think it makes sense for him. I mean, he's done stuff on the indies. He was in NWA. He has plenty of experience, but WWE is its own thing, right? And most people, when they come to WWE, if they haven't been there before or don't know anything about the way that you wrestle a WWE style match, they probably tend to go to NXT. And I, for one, think that's fine. I don't anticipate that he's going to be in NXT for any longer than a year. That's just my guess.
Agreed.
But I think it's the right thing. I mean, sure, everybody in the NXT crowd knew who he was, but if he just showed up on a Monday Night Raw, you don't know that the whole crowd is going to know who he is. And you want to capitalize on goodwill that you create for him so that when he does go to the main roster, there's a big reaction. He's a big deal and there's something for him to do. He doesn't even have a storyline yet. He just showed up. So let's just wait and see, I say.
Yeah, I mean, NXT has a lot of stock in people from other companies. They have Ethan Page, now Jordynne Grace from TNA.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of stars that other people made, which is
Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Brian Pillman Jr., Sean Spears. These are all people that came from other companies who are at a pretty high level in those companies and are now at NXT. So I think for the most part, it's probably pretty widely accepted that unless you are a main event person where you came from, you're going to spend some time in NXT. And like I said, I think that's okay because when you put I guess we didn't preface this by saying that neither of us have been in the ring.
Nope.
We're not in the business. Our opinions are our own, and my opinions come from the things that I've read and the things that I've heard and observed. Based off of what I've learned, a WWE style match is put together differently than an independent style match, than an AEW style match, than a TNA match. So it's almost like when you are a jiu-jitsu student and you're like a brown belt in one dojo and you move dojos, the the sensei is going to be like, okay, what were you before? Well, I'm going to bump you down to a white belt again because I don't know how they trained you. I don't know what mistakes are in your mind now. So we need to start from square one. And I think that that's what happens with professional wrestling as well.
Right. Like even a Jade Cargill or someone who, yeah, they're a big name and they look amazing, but we see them first walking into the performance center. So
yeah, and you know what? Actually, Jade is kind of exception to that rule because even though we saw her in the performance center and we saw her in places getting ready and training, she did have her debut on the main roster. So
she did.
there are always exceptions, but I think for Ricky, it's the right move. And if he exceeds expectations and he fits in really well and rises really fast, they'll bump him up. That's just how it works.
And it's just so cool to see him again because it's been
Yeah.
so long. You know, companies do
Yeah.
so well at like keeping people off TV until.
Yeah, if nothing else, I'm happy for him. He deserves to work and to have an opportunity to get better and to get himself over.
I want to get into the chaos in Calgary, so to speak, soon. But did you see anything on Takeover this weekend or on? I know AEW went to Australia and did like a collision there that wasn't quite a pay-per-view, but kind of felt like it. Did you see anything that you wanted to mention before we move on to going on retro here?
So I take it back when I said that I watched everything this week. I didn't watch Grand Slam in Australia. That's the one thing that I missed. But I did watch some of NXT Takeover, and I liked what I saw. You know, the main event was very hotly contested fatal four-way for the women's championship, and Julia managed to retain, so that was really good. And of course, the surprise at the end of the show after we get the executive producer and the copyright logo, Jordynne Grace, is in NXT. We kind of already knew that because she showed up at the Rumble and Michael Cole was like, she's in WWE now, but still exciting. Yeah,
Still got a moment.
You can give her as many returns or surprises as she wants, honestly. So yeah, it was a good show. It was a hot crowd. I think that NXT pay-per-views, generally speaking, don't fail to impress. And it reminds me of, you know, the heyday, the black and gold days, when I started really getting back into wrestling again. So I'm excited. It was good.
I did watch some of the AEW. It was late. It was like a Saturday night after the All-Star game for NBA. But like I saw some of the AEW show last night, and the crowd seemed hyped. It didn't seem like totally a pay-per-view, but it seemed better than a collision.
Yeah.
I didn't see the whole thing. You know, we're watching this not that far after that aired, but it did seem cool to have AEW in Australia. But I want to go ahead and get into In Your House, Canadian Stampede, 1997. It was July 6th at the Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, home of Bret Hart. We had the commentary team of Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, Jim Ross. The event coincided with the Calgary Stampede Festival, a massive animal abuse celebration that I didn't know Canada had. I didn't know they were so into wrapping the balls of the bull with a rope and just strangling them until the bull.
Oh dear, is that what it is?
That's what a rodeo is. Yeah. Animal abuse. No, how do you think the bull bucks like that?
Yeah, I guess I never thought about it. I thought they were just mad that they were being kept in little boxes and shit.
Oh, they're mad that somebody is stomping on their balls, but they're celebrating this because Canadians love weird, fucked up shit. I'm just kidding. Americans do too. It's
oh my god! Did you see the hockey game? Did you see the fights? Oh my god! Okay, I know this has nothing to do with wrestling, but we're gonna go into it. So USA and Canada had a hockey match in Canada. And not only did the entire Canadian crowd boo during the Star Spangled Banner, but as soon as the whistle blew to start the hockey match, two guys threw their gloves down. They started fighting. And so then they got broken up. And then a second set started fighting. Once they whistled again, there were 3 fights in 9 seconds of playtime, Brad.
This just happened?
3 fights. Yeah, it happened yesterday.
I like how you called it the hockey match, you know?
I don't know.
But
what
no,
the
it's
fuck
perfect.
do you call a hockey? It's a hockey game, right?
Well, that was a fucking match, though.
It was they threw fisticuffs. Dude.
And this was all over, you know.
All over social. Yeah.
Well, I mean, over nationalism, right?
Oh, yeah, I assume so. I assume it's just because we're at odds right now, and the fact that we're at odds is silly, but let's stay away from politics. You know, this pay-per-view, Canadian Stampede, was so interesting to me. Not only because of like where it is and how the crowd reacted, which we'll get into, but more specifically, its point in time in wrestling history. I don't know if you noticed, but Degeneration X, they get together a month after this, like literally 5 weeks after this pay-per-view is when Degeneration X forms.
Crazy.
And then 3 months after that is the Montreal Screwjob. And then Vince becomes an on-air character and he's off the commentary table. And like everything about the WWF at the time changes like right after this pay-per-view.
Right.
So it was crazy to watch and just see like, oh yeah, like felt like a nugget of the past that felt so far back, like way, way before 97, because Undertaker was still the world champion. There was no Degeneration X. Austin was just getting going. I don't even think The Rock was there yet. So it was a really fascinating time. And to watch it through that lens, knowing what is to come just a few months later, made it all the more enjoyable to me.
Brian Pillman is in the last 3 months of his life. Bret Hart is in the last few months of his time at WWE, like you just mentioned with the Screwjob. It's not the Attitude Era yet. So here we are, at the Saddle Dome, at the big Bret Hart homecoming.
Something I thought was interesting about the pay-per-view was the little promo, little pre-tape thing that they started the event with, showing us the setup of the event. For those who aren't aware of where this is in wrestling history, this was just a couple months after the very famous submission match between Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin, with Ken Shamrock as the special guest referee. And this is the one, in case that didn't ring a bell for everybody, this is the match where Stone Cold is in the sharpshooter. There's blood pouring down his face, and he refuses to give up and then passes out, and Shamrock calls the match for Bret Hart. So they gave us a little package. They showed us that moment and basically setting up the fact that Stone Cold got a team together. Bret Hart reunited the Hart Foundation, but as heels this time. And so now, with all that in mind, the show opens and we get our first match.
Yes. So we start with Hunter Hearst Helmsley with Chyna versus Mankind. He's not yet with Stephanie McMahon. He's still with Chyna. She's his bodyguard. He's not called Triple H just quite yet, which he will be in a couple of months.
He was a Greenwich Blue Blood. That's what they called him. Yeah.
Blue Blood.
He was a high society Vermont guy.
And he did a lot of bowing, and he had like sort of this transatlantic like mock accent that doesn't really belong anywhere.
If you think about it, it's actually a perfect role for him, like a perfect shitty heel role for somebody. Just like, oh, I'm so much better than you, his blonde, long hair and his ponytail. Like, it worked. It was just like, you think about it now and you're like, this is the stupidest gimmick ever for like today.
I think they even said, like, Jerry Lawler asked Vince McMahon, has he tried to buy WWE? And Vince is like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Like,
probably could if he wanted to.
I mean, he was going to get my job in about 30 years or whatever. But yeah, he's the blue blood aristocrat. He's smug. He's Silver Spoon. And then we have Mankind, who's,
a weirdo.
A weirdo, but he's like our weirdo.
Yeah, he's a misunderstood psycho. This is the interesting thing. I was too young to really follow it at the level that I follow it now. So I'm curious, at what point does Mankind start becoming sympathetic? Because I remember the 1998 Royal Rumble, I think, where we got the three faces of Foley. He came out in the Rumble as all three of his characters. And I feel like that is around the time where you start like, enjoying Mick Foley and his various characters and rooting for him more. This is like right on the cusp of that too. Obviously the crowd hates Hunter Hearst Helmsley, so they're all in favor of Mankind. But when he started becoming like a supreme baby face, that was when I was really into it. So it was fun to see little hints of that.
Yeah, I think it's fun to watch. I mean, I do feel like Mick Foley is one of the best, and he just throws himself around like a cannonball. And Obviously, he takes crazier bumps than what we saw in this, but yeah, he is kind of like the wrestling fan in the ring, like the best possible version. Like, I'm like you guys, I'm gonna go fucking nuts. And I thought the things that were funny about this match was Jim Ross mentioned the figure four. It puts pressure on 7 points of the human anatomy. And if anyone's ever done the figure four to their friend, and
you're like, oh, this doesn't hurt at all.
it doesn't put pressure on any points.
Yeah, well,
certainly not 7.
I know, but he's trying to sell the realism, Brad. It's okay.
No, it's fine. But the figure four was one of my favorite to put on people when I was a kid because it didn't actually hurt anybody. And the only thing I can say about this match is like, okay, China looks great. She's 200 pounds. She's like fighting men at this era. There aren't really women that are like, she's like Rhea Ripley in 1997 if there aren't any other women that are her speed, right?
Pre-plastic surgery, pre-boob job. Like, she's looking the way she looked before she started messing with her looks and her appearance and stuff. Yeah.
She seems like she'll be around for a while, which I guess her time in WWE was pretty short-lived, but yeah, she looks like a badass and she does a lot of interference. And
yeah, pretty typical, not only to matches with China on the outside, but pretty typical of WWE. That was something I noticed too, is like a ton of interference. And once she interferes, it turns the tide of the match in Hunter's favor.
Right. You got to like let the babyface sort of have an out, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, even though it felt sort of standard, I guess you could say, the crowd was behind it. I mean, holy crap, they were so loud for this match. Even with the referee turning a blind eye to several things that I thought were especially egregious. That is something that really bugs me now because it's like, okay, we're in the modern era of wrestling. So if you, we know what peripheral vision is, right? Like, if something happens right over here, you're going to fucking see it.
I mean, in that era, the referee just couldn't see shit. I mean, this guy
needed his glasses.
Serious eye problems. Yeah,
glaucoma in both eyes.
Glaucoma. Yeah.
It just made him understand. I understand why you do it. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done. It just happened maybe 3 times in the match, and every time the referee didn't do a really good job of positioning himself so that it looked like there was no way he could see it, because there was like a chair shot that was like right over here. Like, dude, you're gonna see that,
They were just zooming in real close to the actual performers, and then they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, okay, I guess that wasn't seen. Or is it GCW where they just fucking do it?
Yeah.
Like in that sort of realm where the ref, in the indies and the Game Changer Wrestling that I go to and stuff, it's like frustrating, but it's like, okay, I get it. Like, every match is a death match. That's not really how Vince McMahon sort of like bills it when he's on the mic.
No.
I mean, it was a cool match. It's the opening match.
Yeah. I did enjoy one particular moment.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowd was just like popping for everything. Anytime Mankind would successfully get a hit on Triple H, crowd would go wild. I think one of the funnier things was Triple H is on the ground, and I think he hits Mankind maybe with a boot as Mankind's trying to do something off the middle rope, and Mankind just falls face first, and his head lands right on Triple H's nuts, and got a huge pop. I thought that was great. I
love that.
It works. I mean, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's like a bowling ball falling on your dick. It's just like perfectly round and heavy. It's
or like it's just
hilarious.
like it's like that episode of The Simpsons with Sideshow Bob where he keeps walking into the rakes and just like hitting himself in the face over and over. You can't help but laugh every time. It's always going to be funny.
And then, of course, the match ends in a double count out, and they just continue to fight, which was kind of, at the moment, disappointing.
They fought in the penalty box.
Because they're in Canada. They're in some fucking...
They're in the Stampeders arena.
Yeah. So they have to fight in the penalty box. And then we think that's all. It's not all. This match lasts the entire fucking night.
Not the whole night, but
we keep seeing a little...
It does come back a couple of times. So after this match, there was another little break. We got to see some behind-the-scenes footage showing events that happened in Calgary leading up to the show. The The Bret Hart line was over a mile long. I thought it was really interesting to see that because it's very similar to modern day, right? Showing the ways in which the company interacts with the fans in the days prior. And it was kind of cool to see that that stuff is always going to be the same, right? Like it's important to show the connection with the fans. And it was a very short, interstitial kind of thing. And then we got into our second match, Taka Michinoku versus the Great Sasuke.
So before this match begins, I must mention Mankind after the package and Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley are still brawling as this match begins.
Yep,
so
they come back
we
out.
could get to see a little bit of that. Then I think one thing I texted you about when I watched it was it was completely apropos that somebody runs across right before they ring the bell with work rate. Work rate sign. And that's really what this match was. It was like high level mat wrestling, crisp kicks, a lot of striking, a lot of like grappling on the ground, springboard moves. Like it was really great wrestling. And I love American style, 1990s, just like ground and pound. Mm-hmm. But this was a style that we see a lot, especially like in AEW and stuff.
Yeah, it was really interesting, actually, because it's like you said, this is the type of style that has become very popular on the independent circuit. It happens more often in all elite wrestling as opposed to WWE. But what I think is so interesting about this match is, sure, it's the same work rate match or Japanese style match, as Bully Ray might say, a spot fest match, but it also kind of isn't, right? Like, it was a more modern style match, but the pace was still a bit slower than modern day. I really felt like after these big moves, both of them took the opportunity to sell and to just lay there and for the crowd to get invested. Because in the beginning of the match, the crowd was, they were kind of into it, but it took a few minutes, but they got into it. I had never seen a Michinoku match before, so it was really exciting for me to see because I know who he is. I know his finisher. People do it all the time now, so I really enjoyed it. I thought the finish was a little lackluster. I think it was like German suplex into a pin. Not my favorite. It kind of ended and then it was over. And it was like, oh, okay, it's done. But I enjoyed it. It was sort of like what WCW did around the same time with cruiserweight matches, right?
Right.
Usually, I think WCW would start their shows with a cruiserweight match and not have it be second, but same kind of idea. I thought it was a good match. It was short. I think it was like 10 minutes or something like that. So, yeah, no complaints. I wish they would have done more of this stuff in the past because I don't think it happened very often.
It was over quick.
It was, but there were some pretty exciting spots. I mean, there was one thing that Michinoku did that I don't see very often, or I may have not even seen ever. Michinoku had Sasuke outside the ring, and he ran from across the ring and jumped from the apron onto the top rope then springboarded off. I don't think I've ever seen somebody just like flat jump from the mat to the third rope in a long time. That was crazy.
Yes, I can't believe I left that out of my notes. Like, that was fucking nuts. That was like the best spot of the whole thing, and they still don't fucking do it. And the Michinoku driver was pretty sweet. It was kind of like the Tiger Driver predecessor a little bit.
I mean, what I found interesting about his version of his move is just the way that it looked. And maybe it was also probably how Sasuke took it as well, but it was so smooth and it had such great rhythm, and he just dropped him, and it looked like he dropped him right on his head, but Sasuke just tucked it exactly the right moment. It was great.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. It was a very technically sound match. And, those guys didn't have a lot of time on TV to get themselves over. It was a special match. They made it work. The crowd was excited. What more can you ask for?
So Sasuke wins, like we mentioned, with a clean bridging pin in the middle of the ring. But Triple H and Mankind are still fighting, but now
we're back again.
They're bleeding. Both of them are bleeding.
Is this the part where they're outside at this point, or is that the fourth time we see them?
Dude, I think this is it, because it's the middle of the fucking day.
Yeah,
and you're like, what time did you guys start this fucking?
Well, it's in Calgary.
High fucking noon.
Where is Calgary? I don't even know.
I don't know what side of that.
I think it's on the
goddamn
east side of Canada, but I could be very wrong about this.
All right. Well, if it's on the east side, then it should have definitely. I think they were trying to cover it. Oh, it's still. And Vince McMahon's like, it's still daylight here in Alberta.
Oh, you know what? No, Calgary's like Montana, like parallel with Montana.
Okay. So they started at like 3 or whatever,
Yeah.
so they could get the East Coast feed. I get it. It probably was still daylight. It looked like it was like fucking noon. And then they looked like they were still beating the shit out of each other, and they weren't pulled apart at all. But then it's like, you know, you have Vince like controlling things, and it's, I think they're broken up now, which they weren't broken up whatsoever.
Right. He's just trying to like, let's move it
I think it's
along.
broken up now. He's like telling you, like, you're not going to see them anymore. Now on to the main events. And it was like, all right, well, match 3, which was The Undertaker versus Vader with Paul Bearer. Weird.
Little weird.
This match was originally supposed to be Ahmed Johnson versus The Undertaker. That's what it was billed as. Ahmed Johnson has said in interviews since he believes if he weren't to have been injured, he was going to strip the title from The Undertaker at In Your House and become the WWF's first black champion. I don't think that's true.
He said that?
He said that.
Okay.
He said that.
Well,
I was reading interviews. He believes this was the moment
he
where he was supposed to become the WWF's first black champion. I think if you were going to have your first, I mean, obviously, I believe The Rock went on to become the first black champion from his faction, right? The Nation of Domination. So maybe he's kind of looking back, like, when could have I like stolen The Rock's spot? I think if you're going to have your first black champion, it probably wouldn't be on In Your House 16. You know.
Yeah,
it was a great show.
It was a great show. I don't know if I believe that, but that's okay. He can believe it if he wants to.
Ahmed was not on the bill. It was Vader with Paul Bearer. And I think, you know, the first thing I got to say, I don't know what the deal is with Vader, like his copyrights and WCW, Big Van Vader. But Vince won't call him Vader. It's always the man they call Vader. And it's like in the middle of the match, like, and the man they call Vader is on the ropes, and the man they call Vader is down by the side, and the man they call Vader is back in the ring. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, he's Vader. And Jim Ross and everybody else is like, and Vader this, and Vader that.
I don't know.
Like, why is he? It's like a Vinceism, right? And the man they call Vader.
Yep.
At the medical facility, they're all the man call Vader.
Hey, look at him go now on the outside. That's Vince's announcing voice. What a maneuver!
I think that's a podcast too. What a maneuver!
That's a good name for a podcast. This was a good match, though. I mean, you know.
Oh yeah.
Again, typical crowd, very much behind Undertaker. They're quiet when Vader's in control. They're really loud when Undertaker's in control. It's incredibly slow paced. Much slower in the beginning than a modern style match. And
is there anything in the world as cool in wrestling as a 1990s Undertaker entrance? Like, it is just so
pretty
fucking
good.
sick.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The lights go out. He looks like a fucking badass. I mean, it got lame later with the American badass shit, but at this point, he's still got that just fucking crazy goth shit on. It's sick. It gives chills. Like, it sends chills through my spine every fucking time. The Undertaker is so badass that when he comes in, he can almost do anything in the ring. He still does good ring work, but he could do anything, and you're just like,
I don't think that those guys had a plan walking out there. I don't think that they wrote their match down on a piece of paper. They reacted with the crowd, you know? So like they got a feel for how it was going to go. Like I was mentioning earlier, every time Vader was in control, crowd goes quiet. Every time Taker gets a successful punch or does a big crowd explodes. And it was insane. There was a time where Vader had Undertaker in a submission, and I think it was like he was pinching his neck or something from behind, right? And Undertaker's down, he's on one knee, crowd's getting their claps going, they're getting him revved up, and he starts, you know, revving up, standing up. The crowd got so loud, the hard cam was bouncing like it did in Lyon for Backlash last year. I've never seen that before. What I saw in Lyon last year, I didn't know that was like a common occurrence. So man, yeah, this crowd was so hot and so into the Undertaker. It was, not like a spectacular match per se. It's no Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25 or whatever,
Right.
but it was still really good because the crowd was like on the edge of their seat the whole time.
Fucking Paul Bearer is on the side of Vader.
Yes.
The man they call Vader.
With his blonde hair, by the way. Did you notice that? No mustache, no black hair.
Orangey blonde hair, no mustache, no white face paint.
It's because Kane's going to show up. It's crazy how much shit is about to happen. Kane's about to show up. And yeah, Paul Bearer goes with Kane. We're about to have the first Hell in a Cell, I think, in less than a year with Michaels and Undertaker. Like, it all just, this is like a little snowball at the top of a hill, and somebody just pushes it, and everything just keeps rolling from here.
Shit's about to get real.
Yeah.
And there is the storyline at this point, which is, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, who cares? At this point, he's the fucking Dark Lord. It's Satan.
Yeah.
But it's like, he's killed his family. He's killed his whole family. He's a murderer. And there's people in the crowd that have murder signs. And it's like, who gives a fuck, dude? Like, this guy is like, I don't know. If he was like a family annihilator, like, that just makes him in the storyline like more badass. But it's like murder.
Well, they're trying to drop ratchet up.
He's also dead.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
That's awesome.
It's. I don't know if it worked in retrospect. It certainly worked then because we didn't know anything about the Undertaker at all. I mean, all we knew,
he didn't say shit.
I barely said anything. Paul Bearer was the only one who ever really spoke for him. So to get these kinds of nuggets of information back then, I just remember like, oh my God, like he murdered his whole family? That's crazy.
He killed his parents and he killed Kane, but Kane's still here.
He's still alive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, I mean, Paul Bearer is my third favorite wrestling manager, maybe after Heyman and Cornette. And
Hall of Famer, dude. I mean, he knew what he was doing.
He was fucking awesome. It's fucking funny to see him all fucked up and not Paul Bearer without the Undertaker. But
yeah, he doesn't have the makeup on. You can see all the crags in his skin. He's got that blonde hair.
Yeah.
This was another match where the ref turned a blind eye to a blatant shot right in the nuts from Vader to Undertaker. And I was just like, come on. But like 2 minutes later, Undertaker got it back and the ref was looking right at it. He was like, yeah, all right, we're good. So I guess it evened out square.
Ref kind of sucked in all these matches.
The refs were a little all over the place in this one. But
yeah.
Overall, great match. Exciting match. Hot crowd. Highlights for me, there was a part where Vader was going to do his Vader bomb. He was on the second rope, and Undertaker got up quickly and had his hand around Vader's neck, got him right by the goozle, and gave him a choke slam from the middle rope, which was pretty cool. Vader was up there high in the air, so I like that move. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, Vader kicked out of 2 low blows, 2 choke slams. Undertaker hits the tombstone pile driver. Nobody kicks out of that, right? Nobody.
Not yet.
Somebody.
Not yet. Yeah, fun match. Like you said, it was good to see old school Undertaker. You know, as you said, he hasn't come out in that attire to that music in, it's probably like 4 or 5 years now. He retired that character. And, it's fun to see again. I know at WrestleMania 40, we had that surprise moment with the gong, but he was just in like regular people clothes. So it's not the same.
Yeah, it's a lot of these days. I think he sticks to his true vibe, the
American badass / Mark Calloway.
Yeah, and no one really. I mean, I've seen him as American Badass a few times, for guest spots, and I've seen him maybe.
Doesn't do anything for me, but I appreciate that he's still around and that he's doing things. He was on Busted Open After Dark with Bully Ray on Tuesday this week and last week, and those are great interviews. So, also that he's one of the team captains of Legends and Future Greats on A, which actually premieres tonight, the 16th of February. This was another match where I really felt the difference in pacing. I don't think it's a revelatory statement to say that modern matches are a lot faster than the matches that we watched in this pay-per-view. But it's one thing to know that, and it's another thing to see it and experience it. And it's kind of crazy. Most matches in current day are not like the matches that we watched during this pay-per-view. I would say
No.
the only ones that usually have a good chance of being that way are like Punk matches, because he just, that's how he wants matches to be. He wants them to be slow. He wants them to have a build. Not a lot of chants going on, not a lot of crowd participation, just like cheering and booing.
Yeah.
But, the crowd, like when they were behind somebody, they were behind somebody. I mean, they were reacting to literally every single move that The Undertaker gave Vader during that match. And that doesn't really happen today. Like, there's always sort of a high and a low thing. But here it's like, this is the baseline. Oh,
Yeah.
and then they're just
do
like,
remember.
Ah!
I do remember, like, when I was younger, because I guess I stopped going to matches around this time and then came back to wrestling later. But there was no "this is awesome" or "he deserves it." There was none of that.
Yeah, there was none of those.
Yay, boo!
Just like screaming and
Screaming
noise.
I think both are cool, but it's nice to watch this little sliver in time between the two. It's pretty fucking dope.
Yeah. It was very interesting because, man, how old was I? I was probably 8 when this actually aired. I definitely didn't watch it when it aired, but I was watching on and off around this time. So this was right around the time that I got in.
All right, so now we're getting into our main event, which is this right? Team USA versus Team Canada?
I mean, I guess you could look at it that way. The main event is a 10-man tag. It is the Hart Foundation, Brian Pillman, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and the British Bulldog versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, Road Warrior Hawk and Animal, Goldust, and Ken Shamrock.
Usually do not like matches with this many people. It's hard to follow.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of legends in the ring together. We have a weird situation where Bret Hart at this time is a heel.
Yeah.
And in America, he's a heel. But in Canada, he is he's more over than fucking anyone's ever been over in the history of professional wrestling.
It's like the Twilight Zone. This match is like the fucking Twilight Zone, dude. It was insane. Like nothing but boos and mixed reactions for everyone on Team Austin. And then one by one, the Hart Foundation, massive pops. And then obviously the loudest pop for Owen and Bret. And I think it's so funny that, like, I mean, it's exactly what you said. They were all heels. In the United States, that the Hart Foundation was a heel group. They were getting booed constantly. And it's really funny because Bret Hart was even mad about the fact that he had to be in a heel group at that time. And just, I'm sure him and everyone, they were just over the moon, like, yeah, like we're the faces here. This is great.
And even the video packages at the beginning are like, tonight, in your house 16, good guys become bad guys and bad guys become good.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, you're trying to work it in there. But yeah, I mean, they did this match perfectly. It seemed like Shamrock, Goldust, Legion of Doom, Stone Cold, they seemed perfectly heelish. And Bret and Bulldog and whoever the fuck else was in there, or Brian Pillman at the end of his life, they really did seem like baby faces. It was kind of like hard to imagine it any other way. I mean,
yeah. Well, when the crowd is,
so I guess in Canada,
yeah. I mean, when the crowd is like that, there's really not much up for debate, right? Like, again, going back a few minutes, and we were talking about like how Undertaker and Vader probably didn't come into that match with a super rigid plan. It was probably the same thing for the 10-man tag. They were like, okay, they're probably going to cheer the Hart Foundation, but let's just see what happens. And then they got out there and they're like, holy shit, okay, so we could do whatever we want and they're going to cheer us. It was really fun. One thing I couldn't help but notice that did make me really sad, everyone on the Hart Foundation team except for Bret, no longer with us. Like, holy crap. When you see them all there, you're like, wow, everyone on that team is gone. And Hawk and Animal too. Like, a lot of people in that match are not here anymore. So it was really sad for a second to remember that, but it was also really fun to see everybody work hard and be with a crowd that really, really wanted to see them. I still can't get over how insanely loud that crowd was. There was more of the camera bouncing throughout this match. It was nuts.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I like. I don't like what's happened to the wrestlers as far as the tragic like ends, but watching the dark side of the ring or watching the A&E biographies, seeing like what these guys really sacrificed, what they put themselves through, what they did on the road, the lifestyle. Like, you know, a lot of these performers shorten their lives for our entertainment, you know, but I did think it was funny. Goldust is billed in this match, and I guess for a while in WWE as, you know, being from Hollywood, California, which, you know, they show him with his like heavy Texas accent before he goes on doing this whole thing. And it's just like, you ain't from Hollywood, California, man. Like,
They also,
your dad's Dusty Rhodes.
Right. They mentioned that his dad was Dusty, which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't remember them doing that very much when he was Goldust, but
Me either. Yeah. But I was like, this hit came from Hollywood. But I mean, back then I didn't know anything about Hollywood. But like the Canadian national anthem, I just got to say, I'm not like, you know, a big national anthem guy. I'm not a patriot of America.
Dude, the crowd went bananas for Canada.
Yeah, they had like some Spice Girl ripoff looking motherfuckers come out.
Farmer's Daughter was the band's name.
Farmer's Daughter.
Yeah.
Which is also the name of an adult film that we have a poster of in our bathroom of our barbershop. But
go ahead, plug barbershop.
Not kidding. Not saying the name of the barbershop, but we have Farmer's Daughter. It's a very big adult film. Haven't seen it. But
liar.
There is. But yeah, no, the Canadian national anthem, it kind of sucks. Like, oh, Undertaker, oh, Canada. Just saying.
Man, you're disparaging the Canadians? The Canucks are going to come after you, bro. You don't want the Canuck heat.
I was talking to this guy the other day from Canada, and we were talking about Canadians being good fighters. And I was like, you know, Canadians, they don't seem like people that would fight. They seem so nice. You know, I've gone up there and played music and stuff, and I'm like, they don't seem like fighters. He's like, no, man. Like,
haven't you watched Letterkenny? That's all that guy does.
He's like, we fuck people up.
Yeah, they fight all the time.
Like, we're really good at fighting.
It's like a thing.
And I was like, why do you think that is?
All the Hicks, they got nothing else to do.
And he was like, you know, the reason you can't just get a gun in Canada. You don't have a gun in your car in Canada. But no, like Americans have guns and so we can't like fight, right? Because some asshole's gonna shoot you. And like he was like, in Canada, like, you know, if you pull someone out, it's fist versus fist.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like we're just gonna, and I was like, all right, that's cool. Let's go to Canada.
Have some fist
but
fights.
Not at this age.
Yeah.
Let's fight.
I'm too old for fist fights. I was too old for fist fights when I was like 7.
I digress. We're talking about what? USA versus Canada, the Hart Foundation versus Stone Cold and all those guys. Yeah, it was hard to pin down the spots of the match. It was mostly about building a feud between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart, which I assume took, you know, had a culmination at some later point, not too far after this.
Actually, I think this was the culmination because I think I could be wrong because I didn't do a ton of research about what happens after this, but I thought he started feuding with Owen after this because Bret was going to start feuding with Shawn because Shawn's going to take the belt from Taker pretty soon and we're going to get to the Montreal Screwjob. So
right, and Bret was out of the company so fast after this, and
yeah, I think he was gone like December of the same year. Yeah, overall fun match. It was like 25 minutes. Definitely a match for the crowd. It wasn't like incredible in-ring action or anything. It was a fight. It was a 5-on-5 fight. They had some fun moments with the Hart family in the front row. Stu, his wife, some of the other brothers or sons of the Hart family, you know, getting mocked and then eventually throwing some punches. So it was a fun match. It was something that it was a match made for its place and its time. And I think the end of the match was Owen sneaking a pin, grabbing onto Austin's tights, and that was the end of the match. But It was a weird end because the match was over and then it just like, oh, and then it got even crazier. And then people are coming over the railing and then everyone's fighting. The Mounties show up and they start, pulling everybody apart. And then, of course, the end is Stone Cold getting handcuffed and walked out of the arena and the crowd losing their minds with happiness because the Hart Foundation are the baby faces in this weird Twilight Zone world and Austin is a heel.
I feel like the Legion of Doom, while they weren't a big part of this, they were one of the coolest fucking tag teams of all time and definitely of the 80s. I don't know how they fit into the late 90s.
A little less so.
But it was cool to see them. Yeah, less. They weren't really the main thing, but it was cool to see them again. Feel like the chairs and the ref not looking because there's 10 guys around worked.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still like, man, like there's a lot of like chair shots in this match. There were moments where it's 4-on-5, it's 4-on-4 because Owen's injured or Austin is injured.
Mm-hmm.
But none of that really came into play because they all came back and, had their moment. It was just fun for me. Like, I don't remember Pillman too much when I was a kid watching these things, but it was good to watch him like at the end of his career, which is probably like the peak of his career.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool to see that. It was cool to see like the Canadian pride of like the biggest fucking rock star that's ever entered into wrestling. Like, I don't know if you still believe or if you ever did that Bret Hart is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. But like, I'm of that camp. Like, Bret Hart is the fucking shit. And, nothing happened in WCW. So this is like the end of Bret Hart's like glory. And he meant so much to me as like a kid. I have to mention that Brian Pillman's ass did play a role in this match.
It did.
His full ass came out in this match. That's all I have to say about that. I don't see that all the time, but it's always funny.
Happened a lot more in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Vince really likes potty humor. Look at his behind.
And also the fire extinguisher, which I kind of liked when MJF.
It was the oxygen canister with Danielson and MJF. Yeah.
But that kind of thing is cool.
Yeah.
You can kind of see where things have come from. And the final image of this match was, like you mentioned, all the generations.
The cousins, the children, the grandchildren.
Yeah.
There are like 50 people in that, right?
Yeah. The energy of Calgary was unrivaled.
Only 12,000 people, too. Like, a big crowd, obviously, but not like a 15, 16, 17,000 person crowd that we see nowadays. Can get comparably loud, but like the other thing I noticed, this is like a different kind of noise too. And of course, part of it's just like modern technology. The way that we are able to capture the audio of the crowd has improved quite a bit, but like you can really feel the noise in these older pay-per-views in a way that you almost don't, because nowadays everybody, you've got live mixers and they're like messing with how much of stuff you hear. So like, oh, the crowd's starting to chant, let's turn it up, right? But here they don't really do that as much. You just kind of feel it boil over and you feel it come down. Like you feel the ups and the downs of the crowd a little less artificially than you do now. Because like an example would be, I like Cody Rhodes. I'm a big Cody fan. Every time Cody comes out, I feel like I hear the same canned, like crowd thing. And I don't know if that's true or not, if I'm just imagining it, if they're blending this audience reaction with the live audience reaction, but they didn't really do that back then. Or if they did, they were a lot better at hiding it. Nowadays, I feel like I notice it. So that was something that was kind of refreshing to go back in time and hear what a hot crowd that hasn't been manipulated by any live mixing sounds like.
Audio aside too, like the video and the lighting in the room, like the production is just 1997. Naturally, it's going to be rougher, darker, less polished than modern WWE, where they have us like
8K cameras and
and there's like a grittiness to it where, especially when they're in the crowd and like Mankind and Triple H are fighting all night and stuff, they're like ground and pound, but like it's dark, it's shadowy. There's people in front of the cameras. You can't see everything. There's chaos. You mentioned that the camera's bouncing. There's something about it where none of this shit really looks fake. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a grittiness that kind of like masks that.
It's funny too, because even back then, it was still way more polished than anything else, right? Like when I think about what WCW was like in 1997, if we're calling Canadian Stampede gritty, WCW was like a fucking dive bar, like the dive bar of professional wrestling. And but I agree, the realness helps for me to make it more engaging. Something else I'm sure you noticed, not a ton of Kevin Dunn camera cuts, right? Like not a million fucking cuts in 5 seconds. It was like they let stuff breathe, which is great. And that's what they do more of now. And I really appreciate, I think like just the whole thing, the look, the feel, the way I felt watching it, even though, you know, there matches that happened almost 20 something years ago, like I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was fun. It brought me back. And I guess that's the whole point of watching these, right? Is to look back fondly on the past. I'm sure we're going to find some stinkers, but we're also going to find some cool little nuggets and things that we didn't remember from when I was an 8-year-old kid, you know?
But if you want to watch this pay-per-view, we can't always, you know, hit a home run. But if you want to watch this pay-per-view yourself, it's really cool now. Obviously, when I was a kid, you had to beg your parents to fucking pay for it.
Go to Blockbuster, get the tape 6 months after.
Yeah, but now we can go to Peacock. I think we watched this one, like, what was it, like season In Your House, season 3.
Yeah, I think it's episode 5 or 6. But it's pretty easy to find if you just look for WWF In Your House and go to season 3. You'll see it titled Canadian Stampede. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. Something that you reminded me of, Brad, when you were talking about kayfabe and how things are about to change in this particular point in time. The curtain call at Madison Square Garden was in 1996. So it was really not that far in the past from this, probably less than a year before this event happened. And that was when it all started to crumble, right? When we saw Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Triple H all hug at the end of a house show.
We did. So yeah, this is a turning point for wrestling history for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy actually, just reading about everything before and after this pay-per-view, like so much shit. This is pretty close to the time where, if they haven't already, I think WWF might be losing to WCW in the ratings at this point. This might be the start of the 83 weeks.
Shortly thereafter, yeah.
Yeah, let me see, when was this? June 1996 until April 1998. So this was during those 83 weeks.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But this still made the list as the best pay-per-view of the year, according to Meltzer, which is, you know...
We'll take it with a grain of salt.
A reputable source in 1997, you know?
How many other sources were there in 1997?
Right. He was the guy.
Yeah, you know, looking back on it, crowd was huge and loud for an attendance of, you know, 12,151 people. Insane crowd. If the American crowds nowadays were like 50% as loud as this crowd was, I think everyone as a wrestling fan just sitting at home and watching on TV would be thrilled.
Indeed.
It was a great show, a great first pay-per-view for us to watch. I'm sure that starting on this high note, we'll inevitably have to take a decline to watch something, but there's a lot of good stuff out there.
You chose this one, and I got to give you all the credit. This was all Aaron, the Finking Man Fink's creation to watch this one. But I've got one up my sleeve for the next episode. We'll talk about that later. Want to make sure it's on for real. If you want to call and leave us a message, I'm not going to pick up. It's just a Google Voice message. Don't be worried. It's 626-657-SLAM. You can cut a promo on us, tell us what we're wrong about, or you can tell us what we need to watch, your favorite pay-per-views of the 80s and 90s. You can also email us, grapplecitypod@gmail.com. Across social media, we're at grapplecitypod. We are very fucking stoked to have our first episode now in the books, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Any last thoughts, Aaron?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to be on this journey. I really do hope that you all reach out to us in whatever way that you want to. The only way to get better at this is to get feedback. And I am no stranger to constructive criticism. I don't mind it. You could tell me I'm shit. You could tell me I have a terrible voice. Maybe I'll try to fix those things. Maybe I won't. But it always helps to hear from you guys. Leave us a message, send us an email, retweet, like, whatever you want to do. Whatever the young kids are doing these days. I don't remember. I'm too old. But hey, let's say bye-bye for now, and we will see you guys next time.
I had a lot of fun. Thanks, man.